And I remember watching her work tirelessly, and I was like, man, I don't understand how she does this. And she was having hip pain and she couldn't walk. Like, I just felt so bad. I was like, I wanted to help. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to all new listeners. For those of you who have heard my content in the past, welcome back. Today is a sentimental, uh, deep podcast. And for those of you who are on the YouTube channel watching this, I'm holding up a photo of a client that dropped something off today and was um, inspirational to me and just reminds me of why I love what I do. And that is why I'm on this podcast today. And that's why I'm on these podcasts every single week, every single time to share these things because we're physical therapists and we're human and we forget or we lose our passion over time. And I had to share my story of why I became a physical therapist. One, because I was reinvigorated by conversations this week and last week, and I'll share that. And I think it's a really good reminder to all of you, no matter where you are on this journey. Some of you are in school, some of you are in you're 1 to 3 years out, all varying degrees. Nonetheless, uh, let me start off by what's better in life. Life is so good on my end. My son just started flag football, and I'm really excited to watch him grow in that sense. And my son Jacob is just growing, and just more alert. And it's amazing this thing called life, as you watch little humans develop. And so I'm very, very blessed. Just really excited about current state of life. I asked somebody in the office today, Diego. I said, "How's life?" And he's like, "It's stable." And I was like, I love that word. It's such a good mindset. For some of us, if you've heard my content in the past, you'll know that one time we had a team meeting and somebody said, I'm kind of bored. There's nothing really going on. I'm just like looking for that next thing. And we had a conversation and I was like, wait a minute, that's called stability. Like, enjoy it. You don't have to go above or, like you're floating. Enjoy it. You don't always have to be high or low. Like, that's amazing. Just enjoy that process before the chaos comes in. There's usually a storm right behind that calm. So, all right. So, why am I doing this podcast? Why I became a physical therapist? Two big conversations, and it has to do with, as I go on and I have these conversations with team members, it is really it makes me think, and also I had some interviews this week, and it makes me realize uh, that I am on the right track in terms of like my passion and where it still lies. And I know that because you're at different stages, you might have ebb and flow. If you're a third year PT student, you are like, I'm in it. Like, I'm so excited for this field. If you're 2 years out and maybe you're in a work environment that you don't love, you might be burnt out. You might be tired. Or you're about to go into residency, or you just finished residency, or you work in professional sports, wherever you are, I get it. But this ebb and flow, it's going to hit you. And you need to know what it feels like or what you need to be looking out for as you go along the way. So, why am I doing this podcast? So, I had a conversation with a client. This is pretty deep, and I won't give all the information out. But I had a client who, about 2 weeks ago, had a conversation with me, and he said, "Hey, Chris, I'm having a hard time breathing when I work out." And I was like, "Wait a minute. Like, what do you mean breathing?" He said, "Yeah, I can't get a full breath in when I'm working out, and I have a history of heart issues." And this person's in their mid 40s, and they're fairly healthy in terms of aesthetically. They're under 160 pounds, and they're fit, and they enjoy life, and you can't visibly see any challenges. And I said, "Have you talked to your doc?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm trying to get into a cardiologist. I enjoy doing CrossFit, and I'm just having some trouble breathing." And I said, push yourself to whatever your comfort level you are." But he's like, "I can just feel something different." And he's also a client. and a friend, right? So he's a client, and we've been seeing him in a while just to make sure his shoulders and back and everything was healthy going into CrossFit. And he was doing CrossFit because he wanted to mitigate the risk of any heart challenges. So, and that was his form of exercise. And so, um, I think 2 days later, I get a text. Actually, somebody notifies me and they said, "Hey, he just had a heart attack." Oh, he called it. He knew it. And that was tough for me. One, because I just had a conversation with him. And afterwards, we sent him, a gift, Get Better basket. And, I texted him. And weird enough, I was actually connected to his Apple Watch in terms of like fitness routines because we were sharing fitness routines. And so he had the heart attack and then he immediately went into surgery. So a couple of days ago, I get a cool alert on my phone and it says he just completed a workout. And I was like, it's like 2 days post op, 3 days post op. Maybe my timing was off, but within the week. And then he finished 3 workouts in a day. And then it was 3 miles every 3 hours. I'm like, that's amazing. And I forget that, recovery is so fast after these procedures. Um, but his story, I wanted to share his story because there's a lot behind that. He was seeing physical therapy because he wanted to stay active in CrossFit and stay in a community that was motivating him. But he wasn't doing CrossFit just to do CrossFit. He was doing it because he liked the accountability, he liked the environment to get fitness in. And his shoulder pain and back pain was limiting him from being able to do CrossFit, which is the thing that was going to give him motivation to accomplish fitness. And so when you have people who are coming into you with back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, there's a reason behind why they're having knee pain. I understand that. But there's a lot of people on this planet who have pain and don't get it resolved. Maybe they don't want help, they don't need help, or the motivation is not as high. But people who are motivated to get it fixed, there's a reason why. So, how does this all pertain to like why I became a physical therapist? It's stories like this that remind you that what you do for people it's at a larger scale than just managing their pain. And when I was thinking about this case, I was I was so happy he found great help along the way and has made it on the other side and he's doing fantastic. He actually stopped by today to share his progress and his journey with me. And a thank you card, and it said, thank you for making my day, and thanks for checking in. Life is good, and I'm very appreciative to have a team of people who actually care about me. And yes, we might do physical therapy. I get that. But you have to understand what it is you're actually helping them do and why. So when somebody comes in with shoulder pain, knee pain, why are you getting it fixed? Like what is the motivation behind it? Why I want to stay active? Why do you want to stay active? Because I want to stay healthy. Why do you want to stay healthy? And having those conversations are kind of tough sometimes if you don't understand why you're doing it and how important and critical it is. So, let me share why I became a physical therapist. Um, and some of you who have heard my first few podcasts might know a little bit about this story, but I wanted to share with you. And this is very private. And somebody this week told me, Chris, you've changed over the last couple years. You're definitely less private. And it's true. Because of my upbringing, because of the trauma behind everything that I've been through in life, it's been more of a reservation. And now I understand that there's tons of people out there, just like listeners like yourself, who struggle with the same stuff. And so now I'm excited. I'm passionate about sharing this stuff. So let me tell you a story. So when I was 14, I grew up in a small suburb of San Diego, as far south as you can get, right on the border of Mexico and the United States, in the corner of San Diego. And it's called San Isidro. And I was born and raised by my grandma. My grandma, her name was Esther. Esther was an incredible human being. So my grandma raised me and instilled a tremendous amount of work ethic and, teaching me to do the right thing for people and always staying positive and always enjoying life. And she gave me a lot of insight into what life could be like if I was a good person. So at the age of 14, I looked up to my grandma. I saw her as this queen, as this person who just would do anything for me selflessly. And one year, apparently a year, she was having significant hip pain where she couldn't even walk anymore. And she had ankle fusion 5, 10 years prior due to a car accident. And at this point, she couldn't walk. It was on the opposite side as her ankle fusion. And so she was having a hard time placing a lot of weight bearing. Now the biomechanics make sense. She had an ankle fusion, couldn't put a lot of load, limited dorsiflexion, put a lot of load onto the opposite side. So her hip actually started taking a beating. Over time, she needed a hip replacement. And my grandma worked 2 jobs as a young kid. One, she picked strawberry fields. She used to pick strawberries. And number two, she used to work in a factory of sewing, and she would work both jobs. And I remember watching her work tirelessly, and I was like, man, I don't understand how she does this. And she was having hip pain, and she couldn't walk. Like, I just felt so bad. I was like, I wanted to help. And so we decided to move forward with surgery. And because we didn't have insurance, we didn't have a lot of money at all. Actually, we didn't have any money. She elected to go through surgery, but they wouldn't give us physical therapy. And I didn't know at the time that it was even a profession, whatever it may be. So they give us the green light. We're gonna go to surgery. She has surgery, and I ask, well, how do I help her recover, right? Because I'm a kid. I'm 14 years old. All I want to do is help the person who's helped me my entire life. I just want to see her walk like just normal again. And they said, actually, she'll do great. You can see a physical therapist. They'll probably give you some exercises, whatever it may be. And so at the time, in 14 years old, we're in the 90s now, and I ask, well, where do I find these people? And they're like, oh, you got to look in the yellow pages. I'm like, the yellow pages? What is this thing? And so I opened this book. Yes, for those of you who don't know, it's this massive yellow book that they used to dump on your front door. And so I look up the yellow pages, and I'm like, hey, I call a couple places, and I find one here in Chula Vista, California, where Sports Performance is located. It's on a couple miles away, but I ask, hey, can I get some? I explain my story. I'm like, hey, can I have some help with my grandma? I really want to help her. And they noticed that I was young and that I was clearly a grandchild who was very motivated. And they're like, hey, we'd love to help out. So we'll give you some papers and whatever it may be. Do you have a fax machine? I was like, no, I don't even know what that is. And they're like, you can come pick it up. I was like, I don't even have a driver's license. So I took a bus to go pick it up. And it was like the first series of her progressions. And I was so excited. I took it home and I was like, hey, Grandma, I'm going to help you. Here's kind of some exercises that I've found. And we started working together. And, throughout that process, she was a little stubborn with me, right? Because she's like, you're just a kid. What do you know? What do you think you're doing? Like, you're not doing the exercises right. It says here to do it this way. And so it was really good banter between my grandma. And for the first time ever, I was able to help my grandma full circle. Like she helped me like walk and do all these things and instill really good values in me and work ethic. And now I was pushing her on the opposite side of the spectrum. And to me, it was one of the most rewarding experiences, like in hindsight now, like watching my grandma walk again and getting her life back so she can work her 2 jobs. And at that point I realized like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I want to help create value and health and wellness and push people to get better. As I've grown, I want to help people get better and at what they do, but it's not just rehab, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So I helped my grandma, and I then got an interest in like this is a profession. Like you can actually help people move forward with just like rehab exercises and give them quality of life, like this is the best thing in the world. I'm in. Put me in. So moving forward, went to school, did all these other aspects to it, and I thought I wanted to work. So when as I go through school, my grandma gets back to normal. She goes through different aches and pains, and I try and help with whatever I could. As I went through this journey, I was like, I got internships. I went to, orthopedic clinics. I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I got to hang out with, high school athletes. I think a lot of us kind of get interested in that. We're like high school athletes, and then maybe you see your first semi-pro as an intern, and maybe like your pro athletes or something. You see them, and you're like, whoa, that sounds amazing. And then it's like they're doing ladder drills and like med ball exercise. I'm like, oh, sports is for me. That's where I want to be. It started with my grandma, but then an interest in what I valued was just health and fitness and everything else. So I was like, oh, sports PT, that's what I want to do. So I go through the whole spectrum. And if you don't know this, I went to PT school thinking that. And if you don't know, on my previous podcast, I actually went to PT school in a dual doctorate program. I thought, well, in PT school, I can change the game. I can not only help people, but maybe I can do some research at the same time. So I went into PT school for a double doctorate. It was a DPT PhD program. I think there was only 3 at the time: USC, WashU, I think Kansas at the time. So I get in and I'm like, I'm going to change the world. In 7 years, I'm going to change the planet. I'm also going to help people like get better, but then also support the research to help them do that. Little did I know that I am better, I'm more passionate about having that person in front of me and changing their life right there in front of me. And so the research wasn't for me. So I did the residency side, went into sports residency, and I was like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And I want to work in a pro sport. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I get into it, and I'm like, this is pretty amazing. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. And I think I was doing 70, 80 hours of like work and research and all this stuff behind the scenes with the residency. And I finally get a job in pro sports. Enjoy that. I think that's amazing. You work long hours, 70, 80, and you really enjoy it. And the challenge I found with working 70, 80 hours was that it's hard to maintain a work-life balance. And I think you lose sight of why you have that passion sometimes. And along that journey, as I was working with all these athletes and working on a Sunday, numerous hours to help somebody get to practice on Monday, I was like, man, this is tough. I'm exhausted. And then there were certain cases that just came to mind as we were working together. They came to mind, and I remembered why I was doing this in the first place. And so one story that, if you haven't heard or been part of my Instagram at Garcia DPT, one story for me was a javelin athlete. Her name is Kara. Kara tore her ACL 6 weeks prior to the Olympics in 2012. I think it was 6 weeks, or yeah, 6 weeks. Sorry, 10 weeks. A month later, we start working together. She goes non-operative. 6 weeks before the Olympics, they decide that they're going to push towards going non-operative into the games, and I was going to help direct that rehab. And I remember thinking, no ACL on a javelin athlete, and that's their blocking leg, the lead leg going into hyperextension. This person wants to compete. And I remember thinking, how are we going to do this? And we ended up working like 2, 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We get her to the Olympics with no ACL, and she competes. And my whole goal was like, I got to get her there. And she got on that plane and took off and landed and actually competed. So it was like I was reinvigorated with like, it's helping people. Don't lose sight of that. Like, you're just helping people through a process to accomplish a goal that is in this grand scheme of life. And so as I went to more of a one-on-one model, I traveled around the world. I worked with a pro tennis player and helped him accomplish his goal, which was to get to a large stage, Grand Slams, the French Open, Wimbledon. And as I understood more, now working one on one with somebody, I understood actually, you're not, as a physical therapist in this domain, I'm not fixing a knee. I'm just helping somebody stay head above water as they accomplish their goal, which in a professional sport was to achieve going to a Grand Slam and actually winning. And through that process, I was like, I had to reflect, like, my job roles are changing as I grow professionally, but nothing changes. My grandma was the root, helping her accomplish something bigger. Going to PT school helped me understand how to do that better. Working as a resident really challenged me. How am I going to accomplish this thing? Working pro sports and having big cases and accomplishing them and helping people truly get to a next level and not necessarily focus on the knee or the back or whatever it was. It was just helping them get to a certain point. And working one on one, it really showed me, what am I doing in this job? Like, what purpose do I serve? It was to help them accomplish goals and stay with them along a journey. So fast forward to creating and opening sports performance, our goal was to help people do the same thing in a local community. And at every moment that we've grown as a company with the team that we have, I'm a big believer in understanding what you really do and why you do it. And so for me, I always have to think back, like, why did I become a physical therapist? Don't lose sight of that vision. What's the big purpose? And for me, it's to help people along a continuum so they can enjoy life with, better health and better fitness. It's not so they can overcome knee pain and get back to running. It's like today, this client who came in and gave me this thank you card is understanding that we're literally just helping people throughout their whole life. And when they come to see you for knee pain, there's a reason why they're coming for knee pain. They're trying to do something. And I think as physical therapists, what's a big takeaway that you can have from today? Number one, don't lose sight of why you became a physical therapist. My grandma is my why. Like, I love that beautiful woman. And she has helped me realize that I can have a greater impact on this planet as a physical therapist. And people like today who walk in and say thank you for everything that you've done to keep me healthy to this point. And one thing he said at the back of the card, he's like, I look forward to see you in person as soon as I'm able to. And so he's going to be back. He's going to be back, and I'm going to push him within limits, right? I'm going to push him because I know that he was active before and he's going to be active again. And I'm going to support him along that journey because I know there's going to be aches and pains along that way. So, number one, don't lose sight of why you became a physical therapist. And I hope you go deep. Like, all of us have a reason why that is. Don't lose sight of that. I don't care how bored, how stable, how I don't care if it's your student loans impacting your life. I don't care if it's, that you don't love your job or you have a bad boss or you hate your coworkers. I don't care about that. You need to remember that the reason you got into this is because of that one story, that one moment in your life. And if you are bogged down by other people's problems, that's your problem. You need to focus in on what you love about your job and your profession. Yes, we all make sacrifices to make that work, but if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you need to re-grasp why you're doing it in the first place is to help people. So don't forget that. So as you go on, like I said, my takeaway was don't lose sight of that. Number two, you're not fixing knee pain or back pain or shoulder pain. Yes, you're probably a magician. Like, you can get people better in one visit. I think that's amazing. And there's some people on this planet who are really good at it, and I think that's great. But the people who appreciate you most are the ones that you can help, but then empower and continue to support them throughout their life. I think one tough thing I hear from people is right now is that an understanding that a physical therapist can help get you out of pain. so you can never be pain. You never have pain again. And I think it's impossible. For those of you who really think that you solve a person's knee pain and you give them the five HEPs or the corrective exercise that they're going to do, and you solve their problem for life, I think that's very naive. I think that I think that as long as that person continues exercising, they're always going to have a little bit, and your job there is to keep them on target. They might see you in a year or 2 years, and then just know that you're going to be their support system throughout their life. I think that's very, very honest, and I think it's very realistic. So as you grow as a professional, you're going to understand your role in helping people along the way. I don't care if you're insurance based or what, if you work at a mill or if you work at a private practice, whatever your scenario is, your story is your story, and that's what's going to set you up for success. And if you love what you do, it's easier to be genuine and honest with the people that you serve on how you can serve them. So when you're talking about athletes, you're like, listen, if you don't fix this knee pain, you're not going to play this weekend. And even worse, you might be cut from your position. And if you don't do that and you get cut, we don't get to work together anymore. That's a pretty serious conversation to have. If it's a high school athlete, you're going to lose your place. You're going to lose risk of losing your scholarship or whatever it is that you may be. Having those honest and genuine conversations are very powerful. But don't think that you're just like, hey, if you don't get your knee pain, you're not playing this weekend. No, have a bigger conversation, an open and honest conversation. Because if you're passionate about what you do, they'll see that and they'll take that seriously. So my takeaway on this is if you're genuine about your passion and you love what you do, just like my grandma, you got to be open and honest with the people you serve so you can impact their life. You got to do that. And you can have a greater impact if you teach them the value of what you're providing them and you're open and honest with them. So improve your communication as you go on. But you got to remind yourself, why am I doing this? Is it because you tore your ACL in high school and that's why you're doing it? But share that empathy. Share that, I understand what you're going through. I've been through that. And if you don't do that, you're going to have continued knee pain. It's going to continue to swell. You're going to have a limp and you will risk re-tearing that and have to go through the surgery all over again. I don't want to see you for another year. Do you want to see me in this capacity for another year? Nope. Then do your homework. That type of conversation is needed with the right people at the right time. But if you don't have if you don't remember why you're doing this in the first place, it's really hard. Because if you're just going through the motions, for some of you, you will go through those motions. You might feel like that throughout your career. If you feel like you're going through that in your career, that's going to really be tough. And that's why this podcast is important for you. Don't you forget about that. Your client outcomes, your patient outcomes will improve if you keep that at the top of your head. Okay. So, number one, don't forget why you're doing it in the first place. Number two, be genuine. Show your passion. Have honest, transparent conversations with your patients and clients. My goal is to remind you, regardless of the stage that you're at. All right, here's the other thing. I said, my passion is helping people and treating people. However, as I grow professionally, I'm thinking about how can I have I always think of my grandma, how do I have a larger impact? How can I help people in other ways? So my most recent transition has been to expand and help PTs like yourself, whether you're a PT student, new grad, established, I don't care. Help you understand and improve your techniques, get you to understand how you can be better at sports rehab, whatever it may be. Let me tell you another story. Last week, I think if you were on my last week's podcast, I took my wife on a date, and we're sitting there having some beverages, and I get a phone call, and it's from if you haven't heard my podcast with Mr. Kenshin before, he's our marketing assistant in the past. He calls me and he says, "Hey Chris, I got to share something." I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you calling me on a Friday afternoon for?" He says, "Hey, I just got." I think he had his coding ceremony. He's at his first semester in PT school, and he got I got white coated, and he's so proud. And I just smiled as he's talking to me on the phone. I'm like, you're the reason why I do what I do. Like that passion. He's like, I'm on to that next level. And he's like, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done to help me along the way. And I was like, Crunchin, thank you so much because this reminds me, like, keeps reminding me that, like, this is why I do what I do. And some of you get reminded of that, right? When a patient gets better, whatever it is, and it's not that you got their 100% pain. What you're really excited about is the value it brought to their life, not the outcome that you got for pain free. It was like the happiness and joy they got from returning to that soccer game or getting to that next level, so they can get to the soccer scholarship and whatever it is and accomplish whatever they needed. But it's what the value you bring to their life. That's why people love to come see you. So Kenshin calls me and he's like, "Hey, this is I wanted to share with you." And all I could do is just look at my wife and be like, "I like love. I'm absolutely blessed with the role, the job opportunities, the things that I'm able to do, and all of you have this at different points of your career, and I have them as well. And I had to share." These things because it doesn't stop. So now my value, now what I love is helping other clinicians or other students uh, just achieve more than what PT school will give you. PT school just gives you the fundamentals so you can practice a license with a license. You pass your exam, now you're like, well, I'm out in this open ocean. How do I do this thing? Like, how do I get better? How do I see more athletes? Well, how do I know progressions? How do I know soft tissue healing guidelines? How do I help one of the PTs downstairs? We were talking about thumb taping. I was like, use this as you need, and like it was outside of the comfort zone. Like I wouldn't have thought of that. I understand, and giving people a greater view from 10,000 feet allows you to see those things more clearly. And so having that mentorship is really important, and just friendly reminders of what you're doing and why. So across the board, whether it's the client who had a heart attack and is getting back to Kenshin telling me, he just had his white coat ceremony and he's on to the next level in PT school, no matter what, you're helping people along a journey, not an instant in their life. And I know as a physical therapist, it doesn't feel like that sometimes. It feels like you're just fixing like ailments here and there. But it's not about that. You're just helping people in their life accomplish more. Not like I saw you for 6 weeks and this is where I'm a miracle worker in 6 weeks and I'll just see you when you come back. No, like you're helping them across a journey, and know that you're going to see them in middle school and you might see them in high school and you want to see them in college and you want to see them as an adult. I had an interviewee ask me and they're like, why would you, if you fix their knee, why would you need to see them 2 years later? Because we're human and you're going to do more. And if you run a 5K now, you might run a marathon later. And that might not take a year, it might take 2 years for you to get to that skill level or that endurance or that courage to set that new goal. And you better believe I'm going to help you with that. But having that honest conversation, like, I know you're going to have more pain. I know this is going to come back because I expect you to challenge yourself more. I expect you to do more. And because of that, I think that continuing on with these things are going to be helpful. Work on this when you come see me next time. Having those great conversations, but I think you need to realize that if I mentored Kenshin to get him to PT school and I'm like, you're good, have fun, I'll never see you again, I think that would be doing him a disservice to understand that he's going to need me at year 2, 3, year 5, 10 as a PT, because you're going to lose sight of why you're doing this and really what you do for people. Ultimately, all of us are looking for one thing in our professional career, and that's just fulfillment, that we're doing the right thing. One of the interviewees, we were talking about this, and I said, uh, as I lead anybody at Sports Performance, I understand everybody wants, we're all looking for a job, and but beyond that, all you're looking for is fulfillment. You want to enjoy what you're doing and feel valued about it, and the people that you serve want to see that value. So get away from the knee joint to the shoulder joint to the neck joint, and understand how does this fit along the whole spectrum of how you're going to support this person. So as you keep these things in mind, it's going to help you stay focused on what it is that you are doing for people along the way, whether you're 3 years out, whether you're a third-year student, where you're aspiring physical therapist. It doesn't matter. In the sports world, you'll understand this more and more. In traditional orthopedic clinics, you're going to see them like as they need every 2 3 years or whatever it may be. But in a sports athletic world, what you need to understand is these people, like, it might be their lifestyle, this is their job, or they're just fanatics. They love it. They're kind of like you. They love what they do, and they're just going to do it no matter what. So what you need to do is understand that don't get frustrated when you can't get them 100% better. They're athletes, they're fitness minded, they're just going to continue to crush it. But if you see it differently, like you're just helping them along a spectrum versus trying to solve a problem and be a problem solver or a pain specialist, instead be more of a spectrum, strength and conditioning specialist with a little bit of PT in between. Been like, how about we adapt and look at your schedule across a year span? I mean, that's a different conversation. That's a different podcast. But ultimately, understand that what you're doing for them will change along a spectrum, but you need to understand that. Stay focused on what it is. Have open and honest conversations with them along the way, and understand truly that you're helping people along a journey, not just one instant. And you're making a dramatic change in people's lives. Don't you dare forget that. Don't you dare forget that. What you do for people is making a change in their life. It is not fixing a knee. You're helping them do something big. And I think that we don't really see it as that. But when you get cards like this and telling you that they're so happy that you've been part of their journey and they look forward to coming back, that'll remind you that you're making a dramatic change in people's lives. So you're helping them accomplish goals. And my goal today was to explain why I have the passion I have, always stay on top of it. I'm guilty of this myself, right? Like, you got to push yourself and remind yourself that you can't lose sight of what it is. Like, you're in it to win it. You've decided on this profession. You got to remind yourself, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? My grandma. Like, just keep doing it, and then ultimately you're helping other people make dramatic changes in their life. That's a big role. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way, but that is truly what you do. So, despite your daily grind, the student loans, everything that you do in your career, the thing that will keep you fulfilled and enjoying your career is knowing that you are doing something bigger on this planet. And that's what my grandma has taught me and has reminded me, that it's the impact you have on other people. And it for my grandma, it wasn't really like getting her hip. It was more of like giving her quality of life back and allowing her to continue. For her, it was a financial thing, to continue working. And in her head, that was the fulfillment. Like, for her, it was as a provider to be able to give back and help raise me. So that's my story. And you just remember that it is all about being fulfilled along that journey. And for her, that was her fulfillment. And for mine, you now know my fulfillment. So thank you to the client who brought this in. Thank you to Kenshin for the phone call and the progress that you've made. And it's the reason why we do what we do. So I hope that helps, guys, to keep you refreshed in life and in your professional career. It is not just a daily grind. It is a life-changing job. So I will catch you guys on the next episode. Take care, guys.